understand is that it's because of there's so many millions of people who are not vaccinated that we cannot achieve the herd immunity situation, and we cannot get to the point where everyone is first of all, without mask mandates, now, people are like, you don't know who's been vaccinated, who's not, because now everybody just wants to shed their masks. So in particular, at least in particular areas, particular states, which is one thing, but when you start, comparing the numbers and everything, there are certain states who are like, they're realizing, again, might be economic pressure, things like that, because if people can't go to work, if the hospital system, the healthcare system gets overwhelmed again, things like that, because of all these new cases or cases, things aren't subsiding the way they wanted to. It kind of all circles back to the people who refuse to get vaccinated, because you have to take into account people that are asymptomatic. So you might have it, might not affect you, and you can still pass it on. You know what I mean? You've got people who have been vaccinated. I can't really speak on, people who are vaccinated and can still get this, this new variant, this Delta variant. They did say that it's even more transmittable than the original version, but they also say that it's less harmful symptomatic wise than the original version. So it's easy. It's like you could pass it on like a cold, but it's not something that might, kill you per se. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a sticky situation, and it's, I try not to judge. I try not to, I try to just say, you know what, live and let live. But if there's something that, even if everyone makes their own personal choice for their own personal reasons, if if you gather millions of people who exercise that right, which is fair, then you're still gonna, I think, increase the risk of their choice affecting everybody anyway. You know what I mean? Inadvertently. That's the best. That's the best way I can put it without, trying to be judgmental and trying to come off as some kind of expert. But that's just, hey, we're here to talk about these things, right? So we're gonna we can mull over this forever.
Yeah, and I mainly go back to the people who are telling you, why don't you get vaccinated? You're hurting less. Like, go get the vaccine. I first thought that this vaccine was voluntary. That's what the government said. They said, listen, we don't do vaccine mandates. Okay, if you want to get it, you get it. But yet you have, again, I'm not trying to get too political, but you have, Biden now mandating federal workers to get vaccinated. And I'm like, wait, I thought the federal government doesn't mandate that. So you kind of flip-flopped on what you said. And
True, but he also says, but if you don't get vaccinated, then you have to be willing to get tested every
to
day.
get tested, yeah. So pretty much it's like, okay, so people was like, damn, I still have to wear a mask and get tested. I think a lot of people, because again, it goes back to the frustration of when, the CDC said themselves, this vaccine is safe and effective. It's safe. It won't cause you any severe harm, and it's effective because it's gonna protect you from getting COVID, which vaccines are supposed to do, or drastically reduce you getting COVID. And yet you have all these new thousands of people, almost in the 100,000s, that have been vaccinated, and yet they're still catching COVID and they're still spreading it. Boston, 3/4 of the people, I believe, who tested positive for COVID were all vaccinated. So 74% of their spikes were people who had the shot. And you gotta be sticking to yourself. I'm like, wait a minute. You said this was gonna protect me, yet I'm still catching it, and yet I'm still spreading it to other people. So what's really in that? As I thought that I was supposed to be quote unquote a hero. I took the jab, I did my part in my community, yet I'm still spreading it. So I'm like, you gotta think to yourself, what the fuck was in that you put in my body? Because if I'm still catching COVID, clearly the vaccine is not as effective as you guys are preaching on TV it's supposed to be. That's one. And two, it kind of goes back to where I'll talk about before. It has created a shift in the split between people who's been vaccinated and unvaccinated. You have vaccinated people who's like, go get the vaccine. Why are you not doing it? Protect me, protect you. And I sit back, I'm like, wait a minute. You don't ask people if they get their yearly flu shots. You don't do that. You don't go around every year when the fall comes. Hey, did you get your flu shot? You don't do that. You don't ask people if they got their vaccine for measles. You don't ask people if they got their vaccine for meningitis. You don't ask people if they got their vaccine for chicken pox. So what makes you think it's okay and cool all of a sudden now to be asking people about their private medical records if they got vaccinated for COVID? So all of a sudden you forgot all about them other illnesses that existed out there that are just as deadly, because chicken pox turns into shingles older. And if you ain't had chicken pox and took care of it when you was a kid, when you get shingles, you gonna have some trouble. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when did all this energy come from? And that's the thing. It's like, it's causing this rift.
There's been a rift after rift after rift in this country for how long now? But
True.
I, the only difference with I would say about what this versus the other diseases you mentioned is that they did not have they did not make the impact that this is made around the world globally, pretty much in the same time frame. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, thousands of people die, tens of thousands of people die from the flu every year. Yes, because they might have weakened immune systems. May have, if you have emphysema or asthma, you don't want your lungs filling up with fluid, that's for sure. Um, Chickenpox has always been highly contagious among kids, things like that. But you never had the world suffer from one particular thing at the same time until since the pandemic of 1918. You know what I mean? So, there's that. Take what you want from that. You know what I mean? So I do believe that everyone has the right, and I don't go around asking people, "Whoa, did you get vaccinated?" Hey, I don't. Whoa, 6 feet, please. Still, remember 6 feet. I don't do that. I just take care of myself and say, and take care of those that I'm my loved ones, and say, okay, you know what? We'll the rest will take care of itself, because all I can do is take care of myself and who I'm responsible for, but I can't go around judging and saying you should get vaccinated. You know, I do feel, I did speak to someone, a friend of mine recently, who um, has never even gotten a COVID test. I'm like, okay, well, I would kind of, at the very least, want to know, if I might have it and I'm asymptomatic or whatever. But again, that's just me, you know. Um, but I like I said, I'm not gonna judge. It won't change how I feel about a person. I won't. As challenging as it is, I try not to pass that judgment, because especially if it's someone that I really care about, I'm like, I don't want it to ruin. This has ruined relationships, one way or another. This has ruined, the COVID itself and everything connected to it. Vaccine versus non-vaccinated, masks versus non-masks. So I try to stay out of that part, because I don't want that to be like a part of an introduction. What used to be a handshake is now, have you been vaccinated? Are you clean? It's like it's scary, but
And that's, like I said, that's what like really pisses me more the most, besides the mandates, which I don't think are right to do. I don't think it's fair, because again, there's other illnesses. They don't mandate the flu for you to go back to work, and there's hundreds of strands of the flu every year that people don't know.
yes,
There's more than one
yes,
strand. There's hundreds,
yes,
hundreds. And
yes,
people's like, so how do they give you the flu shot? I'm like, doctors do an educated guess. They study which flu strand is going to come around, and they just suggest you take the flu shot. So that's why a flu shot is not 100% accurate, because it may not
right,
be that strand of the flu that happens that year. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, if
right,
they don't even have a 100% effectiveness for the common cold, for the flu that has been around way longer than SARS and COVID, this has been done in 6 months. And I understand people's skepticism, because I'm like, okay, something, whether it's just for more money profits and stuff like